We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DDI India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Russia must pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. Says the U.S. intends use Russia's assets for the purpose. Putin says open talks on Ukraine. U.S. President Biden slaps new tariffs on Chinese imports. Meanwhile, China vows to take all necessary actions in response. Georgia's foreign agents bill prompts angry reactions at home and abroad. U.S. calls it a Kremlin-style law, warns that if it fails to meet EU standards, relations will be hit. Huge manhunt in France after prison officers killed in ambush. French prosecutor describes it as extreme violence. And Cannes Film Festival kicks off with a screening of French comedy The Second Act and an honorary Palme d'Or for Hollywood actor Meryl Streep. On to the details now. In an unannounced visit to the Ukrainian capital, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promises more support as Russia gains ground. He asserted that what Russia should and must pay to rebuild what they have destroyed in Ukraine.
Making Russia pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. What Putin destroyed, Russia should and must pay to rebuild. It's what international law demands. It's what the Ukrainian people deserve.
Well, Blinken, who is visiting Ukraine after Congress passed the long-delayed $61 billion aid package, held meetings with a slew of leaders in Kyiv, including President Volodymyr Zelensky, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba and civil society representatives. He also expressed U.S.'s intentions to use its power to seize Russian assets as leaders demand to ensure uninterrupted assistance from Western partners.
Our Congress has given us the power to seize Russian assets in the United States. We intend to use it. We're working with our G7 partners to see that Russia's immobilized sovereign assets are used to remedy the damage that Putin continues to cause. The G7 can unlock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side.
And the group of 7 countries froze around $300 billion worth of Russian financial assets soon after Moscow's offensive of Ukraine in 2022. Since then, the EU and other G7 countries have debated how and whether to use the funds to help Ukraine. The United States has proposed seizing the assets in their entirety, but Europe has balked, citing risks to the euro and massive legal repercussions. More recently, Washington has pushed for using the assets as collateral to provide loans for Ukraine. And meanwhile, Blinken also reiterated Washington's unwavering support to Ukraine as the country's forces face their toughest situation on the battlefield for months.
We're going to help you hold off Russia's attacks, make it harder for them to strike you, and keep the Black Sea open so you can keep growing your economy and keep helping to feed the world. We know that time is of the essence. That's why, just 1 minute after Congress approved our massive aid package, President Biden sent ammunition, armored vehicles, missiles, and air defenses to Ukraine.
Well, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Tuesday oversaw a tactical missile weapon system that will be newly installed at missile units of its army. Kim expressed a satisfaction with missile system production in the first half of the year and emphasized on maintaining the momentum in its bid to ensure readiness for war. Last week, Kim inspected the country's artillery weapon system and attended the test firing of such weapons. And U.S. President Joe Biden has imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, solar cells, steel and other goods. These include a 100% tariff on electric vehicles, a 50% tariff on semiconductors and a 25% tariff each on electric vehicle batteries from China. The White House said the measures were a response to unfair policies and intended to protect U.S. jobs. The tariffs announced on Tuesday will hit an estimated $18 billion worth of imports. In his address to the nation, Biden said, "We are never going to allow China to unfairly control the market for these cars. I want fair competition with China, not conflict," he said.
But for too long, it hasn't been fair. For years, the Chinese government has poured state money into Chinese companies across a whole range of industries: steel and aluminum, semiconductors, electric vehicles, solar panels. The industries of the future, and even critical health equipment like gloves and masks. China heavily subsidized all these products, pushing Chinese companies to produce far more than the rest of the world can absorb, and then dumping the excess products onto the market at unfairly low prices, driving other manufacturers around the world out of business.
Meanwhile, China has vowed to resolutely defend its interest in the race of huge new U.S. tariffs and warned that the trade barriers would affect the wider relationship between the two economic superpowers. China has already criticized the plans. China's Commerce Ministry was opposed to the tariff hikes by the United States and would take measures to defend its interest. And in the Georgian capital, thousands of protesters shut down a major intersection after Parliament passed the third and final reading of a foreign agents bill. The legislation now faces a likely veto by Georgia's president, which the Parliament can override by holding an additional vote. The foreign agents law would require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as agents of foreign influence. The White House said on Tuesday the United States is deeply troubled by Georgia's foreign agents legislation. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, "We are deeply troubled by Georgia's legislation. If this legislation passes, this will compel us to fundamentally reassess our relationship with Georgia."
We're deeply troubled by Georgia's Kremlin-style foreign agents legislation, which just passed, as you just stated, Parliament, and we expect the president to veto it. While it is unclear whether Parliament will try to override a potential veto, we have been outspoken about our concerns with the legislation, which runs counter to democratic values and would move Georgia further away from the values of the European Union, and let's not forget also NATO.
And campaigners in New York City are pushing for a ban of non-essential helicopter rides. They say the thousands of rides taking place each year cause unacceptable levels of noise pollution and air pollution for residents. Some helicopter models produce as much as 950 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per hour, which advocates say is bad for the planet and people's health. Others, though, question what impact banning rides could have on the lucrative tourism industry. Sally Patterson reports for more.
Clearer skies and quieter lives.
In the past year, there have been 59,000 complaints filed to New York City Council over helicopter noise. Council members here are working on legislation to reduce the environmental and public health impact of non-essential flights.
One idling helicopter is 40 idling cars. We're here as in New York City trying to reduce cars on the road. We're doing all of these protocols around it. We really need to make sure that we continue being an industry leader, a climate change leader.
Yes, helicopter rides are a pull for tourists visiting the city. But those pushing the legislation say the revenue from flights isn't financially worth it.
These two helipads owned by the city generate about $2 million in revenue. And we have a budget of over $110 billion in the city of New York. It is a modest amount of money in the broader scheme of things, but it has a huge negative impact in our communities.
Under current rules, helicopters can be chartered from one of the city's airports as an alternative to taxis or public transport. And several companies offer sightseeing rides for an aerial view of New York's highlights.
In just the 10 minutes or so that we've been standing here, we've seen 8 different helicopters landing behind us. From this heliport in downtown Manhattan, tourists can enjoy a ride across the city for around $250. But people living in the flight path say they're the ones paying the real price.
Mimi Kajina lives just across the East River. She tells me the flights run over her home all day, 7 days a week.
The dishes on the shelves rattle. You can't speak to the person standing next to you in your own home. You have to stop and wait for the helicopter to pass by. For an individual to have the money to harass, basically it's harassment, harass thousands of people every 20 minutes, I think it's wrong.
One of the council's proposed laws would implement a noise tax on flights taking off or landing at the city's heliports.
And if that were done, I estimate that just that tax, which would be passed on to the passengers, would eliminate a third to a half of the demand for helicopters. So it would get rid of as much as a half of helicopter flights.
But in order to outlaw the city's popular helicopter highway, campaigners likely have a choppy ride ahead. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, in France, a manhunt was launched after gunmen ambushed a prison convoy in Normandy to break out an inmate, killing 2 guards and wounding 3 others. President Mohamed Amra, known as the Fly, was being taken away from court to a prison when a car rammed the prison van at a toll booth. Gunmen then opened fire at prison officers. Several hundred police officers and gendarmes have been deployed to carry out a manhunt. Prosecutors identified the inmate, who was freed as Mohamed Amra, convicted of burglary on May 10th and had been indicted by prosecutors in Marseille for a kidnapping that led to a death. And several areas remained flooded in northeastern Argentina as heavy rains have hit southern Brazil in recent days. Hundreds displaced by the flooding of the overflowing Uruguay River. The overflowing river has mainly affected the town of Concordia. Local authorities on Monday stated that a total of 167 families comprising of 568 people had been evacuated from the flood-battered region. And Brazilian farmers mourn the loss of animals in flood-ravaged southern Brazil. An unusual precipitation has affected the ecosystem of Brazil, leading to the tragic loss of numerous farm animals. Livestock, which forms the backbone of the agricultural economy in this region, has been hard hit. Over millions have been affected due to the constant downpour in the region. Scientists believe the pattern has been intensifying due to climate change. And a large wildfire is slowly approaching the major Canadian oil sands city of Fort McMurray. Around 6,000 people in 4 suburbs have been told to evacuate on Tuesday. The fire, fueled by tinder dry conditions and high winds, has been threatening the city in the western province of Alberta since last week. The fire has grown in size and has flamed more than 10,000 hectares of the region. An American actress, Meryl Streep, was honored in an emotional ceremony as Cannes officially kicked off on Tuesday. Celebrities walked the red carpet into the plush Grand Theatre Lumiere to honor Streep before settling in to watch this year's opening film, The Second Act. Before her honorary Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, she was greeted by a thunderous standing ovation. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Campaigning in full swing continues ahead of phase 5 of the Indian general elections. 49 seats are going to polls in this phase on May 20th. UNESCO recognizes the importance of Indian text, includes them in Memory of the World Regional Register. Which ones we'll tell you ahead. And in IPL, Rajasthan Royals hope to book knockout stage berth to play against Punjab Kings today, who hold the bottom place.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. While campaigning continues to gain momentum ahead of Phase 5 of the Indian general elections, leaders from various political parties will be holding rallies on Wednesday. 49 seats are going to polls in this phase on the 20th of May. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding a roadshow in Mumbai in Maharashtra state. He's also scheduled to address 2 public meetings in the state. BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will address a rally in West Bengal. BJP candidate and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is scheduled to address a rally in Lucknow. Singh is seeking a 3rd term as a Member of Parliament from the constituency. Opposition Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will participate in a bike rally in Orissa. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi is scheduled to hold election campaigns in Uttar Pradesh state. While Aam Aadmi Party Supremo and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will be attending a public meeting in UP's Lucknow. Well, Odisha is an Indian state well known for its diversity in culture and nature. A quick peek into the demographics of the state as amid the Indian general elections.
Situated in eastern India, the Orissa state is blessed with mineral resources such as coal, limestone, lead and gold. The state accounts for 57% of India's total iron ore production. Spread over an area of over 1.5 lakh square kilometers, Orissa has a 485 kilometer long coastline. Its capital Bhubaneswar, one of modern India's first planned cities, has emerged as an education hub. Other prominent cities include Puri, which is home to popular Hindu deity Jagannath Mahaprabhu. The city also hosts the famous Rath Yatra, or the chariot festival dedicated to the Lord, which attracts visitors and pilgrims from all over the world. Located near Puri is the 13th century Konark Sun Temple and is well known for its architecture. The state also has a rich cultural history that dates back to the 4th century BC. The region was part of the Kalinga Empire, which was invaded by Mauryan Emperor Ashoka. In the 2024 general elections, Orissa, which has 21 seats in the Lok Sabha or the lower house of the Indian Parliament, is going to polls in 4 phases. The state has 33.2 million voters, out of which 16.4 million are men, 15.8 million are women, and over 3,200 belong to the 3rd gender. Orissa is governed by the Biju Janata Dal. Other prominent parties are the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Congress. In the 2019 general elections in Orissa, the BJD won 12 seats, the BJP bagged 8, while the Congress got 1 seat. In Orissa, the 2024 Lok Sabha polls will be held simultaneously with the state legislative assembly elections, making the political battle in the state a riveting one. Anu Kaushik for DD India.
Well, in a proud moment for India and Indians, Ramcharitmanas, Panchtantra and Sardhya Loka Lokana have been included in UNESCO's Memory of the World Asia-Pacific Regional Register. The inclusion confirms India's rich literary heritage and cultural legacy and signifies the global cultural preservation efforts. It underscores the importance of recognizing and safeguarding the diverse narratives and artistic expressions that shape our shared humanity. The decision was taken in the 10th meeting of the Memory of the World Committee for Asia and the Pacific. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. A major road accident was reported in India's southern state, Andhra Pradesh. 4 people were reported dead and several others injured after a speeding bus rammed into a tractor carrying labourers. Major fire broke out in India's Bali-Tirshi block of Udhampur forest range during the early hours of Wednesday. The efforts to douse the fire are underway by the Forest Department officials. Reason for the fire is yet to be ascertained. Further details are awaited. At least 14 people are feared trapped in India's Kolihan mine in Rajasthan state. The incident took place after a lift-carrying vigilance team crashed in the late hours of Tuesday. The rescue operation is underway. Ambulances have been rushed to the spot and doctors have been asked to prepare for any situation. And on to some sports news now. In the Indian Premier League, Rajasthan Royals will look to confirm their place in the playoffs when they take on Punjab Kings in Guwahati on Wednesday. The Royals have come close multiple times to book their place in the knockout stage, but have not been successful so far. They come into this contest on the back of 3 consecutive losses. A win will easily take them to the playoff stage, and a loss will keep them waiting for their last match. The Royals will be without the services of Joss Butler, who has returned to England to gear up for the upcoming T20 World Cup. They are currently at the 2nd spot in the points table. On the other hand, Punjab Kings are out of reckoning in the tournament as they hold the bottom place. They'll play for their pride. And in Indian Premier League, also Delhi Capitals kept their playoff dreams alive with a 19-run victory over Lucknow Super Giants in Delhi. Tristan Stubbs and Abhishek Porel guided Delhi Capitals to a big total of 208 for the loss of 4 wickets. In chase, Lucknow Super Giants could only manage 189 for the loss of 9 despite half-centuries from Nicholas Pooran and Arshad Khan. Pacer Ishant Sharma rocked Super Giants inside the power play, picking 3 wickets and leaving the Lucknow-based franchise struggling at 4 for 44. The pacer dismissed KL Rahul, Quinton de Kock and Deepak Hooda early in the innings. Arshad Khan then threatened to close the game with his 33-ball 58, but it wasn't enough for Super Giants to get 2 points. Delhi Capitals will now have to depend on other results in order to qualify for the playoffs, while Super Giants still have a game in hand, but their net run rate can prove to be a big problem. And Tokyo Olympian Manu Bhokare and Vijay Veer Sidhu have won the 4th and final Olympic selection trial in 25-meter pistol events. Manu shot a world record equaling 42 in the women's 25-meter pistol T4 final, while Vijay Veer shot 34 in the decide of the men's 25-meter rapid-fire pistol T4 to emerge triumphant. Manu was also the only shooter among the selected 5 to have not gone below 580 in the qualification round even once. In the men's rapid-fire pistol final, Vijay Veer took the lead after the second 5-shot series and held on till the 8th and final series to register his first outright victory in the trials. And the Indo-Australian duo of Rohan Bopanna and Matthew Ebden crashed out of the Italian Open. The Indo-Australian pair lost in straight sets 2-6, 4-6 to the Italian duo of Simone Bolelli and Andrea Vivasori in the pre-quarter finals. The duo conceded 5 break points, and that turned out to be a crucial factor in the context of the game. The latest defeat extends their struggle to 3 tournaments. They have been unable to find their rhythm on the slower surface, and their struggles are a cause for concern as the French Open approaches. The duo had a strong start to the season, claiming the Australian Open and Miami Open titles on hard courts. However, the teamwork seems to have faltered on clay courts. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday picked up a red guitar at a basement bar in Kyiv with a message for Ukraine that the U.S. and much of the world was fighting not just for Ukraine, but for the free world. They played Neil Young's Rocking in the Free World, a rock anthem released in 1989, just before the fall of the Berlin Wall. All right, that's all for this edition of Read India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.